The car you drive every day should be fun.
But it has to do the boring stuff too, like commute, be affordable, and haul your groceries.
You can have both, and we'll help you find it. I'm Todd.
I'm Paul, and this is the Everyday Driver Car Debate. Here we are on Skype with a guy that needs no introduction. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We're really, really happy to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Man, this is great because we've been on your podcast a number of times, and
yes.
You've been gracious to have us there when we're in California. But here we are. Todd and I are in Utah, and Matt's, of course, in California, and we're Skyped in. Of course, you can't see us, but yeah, we just wanted to have you on and chat. There's so much going on.
It's just, we look the same, and it's not that interesting. The video of this would not be nearly as riveting as people might imagine, but it is more than overdue for us to have Matt on. So thanks for being here, Matt.
I am happy to do it. Yeah, it's good. No problem at all. What you guys up to in Utah? Getting snowed on?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Biggest snow year we've had in years. I know, actually. Didn't they close Mammoth for a while? You went up there, didn't you?
I was there the day after it opened. It was sick. The snow was amazing. The snow was incredible. We got some snow tires on the Macan and Michelin Latitude Alpine tires, and Porsche Macan in the snow on the right tires was a beast. It was great.
Nice.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you a skier or a boarder?
I just went back to skiing after 25 years of snowboarding. I switched when I was a kid, and now I'm an old man, and my body is just beat, and now I can going back to skiing. It's fun, man. Skiing is really fun again after 25 years. I ski like I'm 12. Like I picked up exactly where I left off 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's good. And actually, it's crazy. I just went to Mammoth, and who was with me is Mr. Regular, Brian.
Okay.
From Regular Car Reviews. I mean, have you ever considered going skiing with the Regular Car Reviews guy? No one's ever had that thought before.
That's the first time that sentence has actually been said. Yeah, keep going.
No, I said I was going to go, and he hit me up, and he was like, I've never been skiing on the West Coast, and can I come? And he and his other friend, Eric, came out, and we skied together. Like, he's a ski instructor. He's like an actual...
Seriously?
The guy who makes the weird noises in the car videos was skiing down the mountain in front of me backwards going, keep your hands further forward. And helping people... we got off the chairlift. We did a couple runs together, and we got off the chairlift, and someone fell. Not me. Some other lady fell over. And you know an instructor, he did that super fast uphill duck walk scramble. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You can always tell how good a skier is by how fast they can go uphill on skis. That's the primary indicator, right? And so this lady fell over, and he was just like Usain Bolt on skis, trying to help this person up, and this person's like, "Who are you, weirdo? Get away from me!" And he's like, "Let me help you." Yeah. And I'm like, and.
You're standing there watching, going, okay.
But no, it was odd because he on the one hand, he happened to be a very good skier, but he also he'd never been at altitude before, and us, us West Side people, we know how to deal with altitude. It's not really a big deal to me to be at 8,000 or 9,000 feet. I'm up in the canyons at 5,000 feet every weekend. And so, but the altitude, he was this amazing skier, but after an hour on the mountain, he'd be completely dead and be like, I can't feel anything. And I'm like, oh, you. But it was
that is interesting because we're living at about 6,000 feet now, so we're even less affected than we used to be.
You guys
and
are
I can only
monsters,
imagine. If he skied on the East Coast,
my God, dude! If either of you showed up at Killington in Vermont, you guys would both be like Johnny Mosley doing backflips, But the snow in Mammoth this week, oh my God, the snow it was incredible.
I'm sure it was amazing. It's been incredible here. It's been better than it's been. I've been in Utah 6 years now, which is shocking to think about. And this has been by far the best winter. And we had about 10 days where we didn't even see the sun. So, it's been crazy to... And, of course, I keep driving my rear-wheel drive sports car around in the snow.
Do you?
So that's always fun,
on snow
too.
tires?
Yeah. I run the FRS year-round in the Blizz X. It's ridiculous fun. It's the perfect situation where I have grip every time I want it and no grip at all when I want it.
That's a really good explanation for that. I've found recently, because I've gotten to drive a variety of rally cars, and I've found that cars that have really good on-road dynamics, you put the right tires on them and you put them on loose surface, and they'll have really good dynamics on loose surface as well. Lee Keen's Rally 911.
Yeah.
Dude, that thing. You've never seen anything that was as fun to drift. I mean, or as easy. I drifted that thing through a tree-lined forest on my first go, and I didn't even think. Yeah, it was crazy how good it was.
That video is amazing. That video is awesome too. I'd love to drive that thing. It looks great.
I'm gonna buy one of those at one point.
Son, I forgot to tell you, I saw those Nokian Hakkapeliitta tires on a Prius. I looked down.
I can't believe you just announced that name and got through it. I'm
good
for you. I mean, that's good for you.
Not Norwegian or Scandinavian in any way, but I know these tires just because you brought them up, and there they were on a Prius, and I thought, all right, at least you put winter tires on a Prius. Fine.
Well, they're bound to improve anything, but I can't even.
Those tires make sense in Utah. In California, like these Michelin Latitude ones are like more. They're a little more normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're sort of
totally.
An all-the-time tire that's good in snow. You start going Nokians, your car looks like a Saab from the 70s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing how many people in Utah don't do that. I mean, we beat on tires with the podcast all the time because it's amazing here locally how many people don't even bother, and those are the ones in the ditch. And I'm there in my ridiculous orange sports car going, hi, but anyway.
No, the tire makes more of a difference than the all-wheel drive system or than the traction control or than any of that stuff. With these tires on the Macan, I mean, honestly, we were kind of messing around with it. We were standing on the brakes and we were doing like launch control stuff. I mean, because I don't, I don't
trying to break it loose.
Well, we don't get to drive in the snow. I mean, do you know a privilege? Me getting to drive in the snow on snow tires is incredibly rare.
Sure.
And so it was fun, man. It was tough to break them loose. You didn't even get into the traction control, really. I mean, and if you turned it off, it was all kinds of good fun. But doing a couple, we were doing some launches, and this thing, Macan S, it launches pretty good, in the snow tires. It was cool.
That's impressive. Yeah, when we used to go to Mammoth, we never even ran winter tires. We were always just doing chains because it just doesn't make any sense there. But here we have to have them. So was this a press car Macan?
No, my housemate Nick has this
okay,
this
he
thing.
has one.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the Michelin
Gorgeous.
sent me the tires. I called them in a panic, and I was like, "Have you seen the snow up there? We need tires, so please."
What on earth?
And they sent me a set for review and whatnot, and I mean, we say for a review kind of wink because read it.
Yeah.
I certainly appreciate it.
You did some launch control with the tires.
Dude,
in the end,
honestly,
right? There you go.
You know what? I don't really know other than like buying them. I don't really know like what we'd really be expected to do. I mean, I think that I'd rather just them send me a set of whatever the tire is and let me drive on it on whatever car I feel like driving it on than going on some type of an experience type thing where I'm away from home for 3 or 4 days. You know what I mean? Like send me a set and I'll tell you what I think. Like, and here's what I think. They're beast in the snow. They really they were beast.
So what else do you have going on in 2017? You have any other big stuff going on? You're still doing one takes, right?
Yeah. Could you hear the enthusiasm?
Yeah,
there?
I could. I was going to say, how much longer? Are they ending next week? What's going on?
No, it's been a fun thing, and I've gotten to meet a lot of really nice people, and the internet's really mean to a lot of the people that come on my show, and I always feel terrible because in person, I never have any of the experiences. People are like, oh, that guy was a douche, and like in person, like I didn't think he was a douche at all. I thought he was perfectly nice, and so people are mean. I think it's great, and like the best part has been like meeting all these people and driving cars that are for the most part very good. I've seen cars that even were kind of funny looking and looked off that drove pretty nice, and there's a lot of pretty good backyard engineering happening, and the variety is certainly amazing. The process of making it, you guys make videos, you're creative people, so you must understand that the process of doing the same thing at this point, literally 400 times, that wears on you. And
is that where you're at? 400 now? Is that your?
Yeah, I think it's
about your.
I think we've aired I think I've aired 300 and something, but I've definitely shot over 400. Yeah.
Wow. Is there an end in sight to these? Are you cutting things off at some point?
I was thinking 500 would probably be the end of it. I mean, you do anything 500 times, that's enough. anything. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I hear you.
you know,
Sure.
I mean, there's just, you know, and it's you need to exercise your mind. You know, if you've clearly 500 times of anything represents what I will call a significant commitment to trying something.
Absolutely.
You know,
you can say
Right.
you've done that thing.
you know, I
agree,
can say
yes.
that I've done it. I know what it's like, and I have an accurate and diverse set of results for what, you know, the
sure.
data looks like when you do it. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, you know, we're finding that YouTube is sort of changing around us. I think the race to the bottom is becoming accelerated.
That's a good way of putting it.
You know, it's people don't. There's no appreciation, and there's no monetary appreciation anyway, for quality content. And
Agreed. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so it's, you know, I don't know. I'm not really sure what to do about that, honestly. I suppose by putting out a very high volume of very crappy videos, I've done my part to contribute to it. So you know, to complain about a situation that I have certainly had a hand in creating.
Yeah, but
I
you
see
and I
the
have talked
irony.
about this a little bit before. I mean, to some degree, you've cracked the way to be the vlogger thing, which YouTube rewards, but yet be actually doing car reviews,
Yeah,
which is
no,
a
that's
really
true.
hard thing. You know,
That's
you've cracked
true.
that.
And I wouldn't
And-
I wouldn't been able to do that though. That's not even really me. Like that's like the rabid enthusiasm of the fans. Because I only had to ask for cars. Like I only had to put out a hey, bring me your cars. Like I only had to do that like a couple of times. Like I only had to put out a call for cars, God, like 2, maybe 3 times ever.
Wow.
So,
That's
you
great.
know, every car I drive, you know, that isn't a press car, I go out and get my own press cars, but every
Sure.
single other car that I drive, somebody went out of their way to bring it to me voluntarily.
And I remember
Yeah.
you
And,
had said
you
you
know-
were pretty backed up at one point. I think last time we were on your podcast, we just got to talking offhand about how far your reserve was, I
Yeah.
guess. And
Yeah, there was
how
a
the
point-
emails come in, and
Yeah.
you're just, you know, pushing people away at this point.
Yeah.
Was it
Well,
not?
now I'm pushing more people away. There was a point. Pushing people away is a bad description. I'll explain to you really what I mean. There was a point when the waiting list, when I was scheduling like 6 months out. Like,
Oh, gosh.
yeah,
Wow.
like it. I mean, imagine like which is funny. Like it's funny to me that was a situation that I found myself at the end of that kind of a line, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got to tell you guys, I don't know about you, but I hate lines, man. I won't wait in a line that's 10 minutes long to get in the coolest club in Los Angeles. Like I am not waiting in a line. And so the fact that somebody would wait 6 months
Yeah.
for
Just to get their car featured. But,
yeah,
you know,
But that's cool.
you
It's
said
still
there have been some
though.
cool
It was
owners.
crazy.
You've gotten some cool stuff.
Oh,
and-
dude, they've all been cool.
You know.
I mean, you know, it's you get a huge spectrum of humanity, man. People
Oh,
are
yeah.
different, and you know, some people are very social and very communicative, and other people are quieter and more reserved. But people, you know, these people are driven. People, I tell people not to drive here. Like people are like, I'm from Seattle and I would like to feature, you know,
Wow.
and I go, look, I
Lord.
can't come to you, you know, and they'll go, oh, that's okay,
Yeah.
I'll drive to you, and I go, it's not worth it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, and I try that once or twice, and inevitably they win. They say, no, I'll make a weekend out of it. I'll do whatever. I'll take the
Sure.
kids to Disneyland and or something, and you know, and then they do it, and they come from so far. Like it's I don't give them anything. You know what I mean? I can't give them anything. You know, someone in a comment on a video the other day was like, you know, you should really be giving these people merch when they come bring your car. And I go like, if I started imagine I just gave something away, like, you know, think about how I've shot 400 videos. Imagine I gave
Yeah.
away 400
Yeah.
t-shirts. It's like thousands
Yeah,
and thousands
I know.
of dollars in t-shirts. Like who could do that? You know,
Right.
You're right.
I try and
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
the best thing I could do is make their experience when they hang out with me pleasant and fun and interesting. And I'm not going to lie and say that I don't repeat stories from time to time. I have a bit of a greatest hits list that I tell these people, who come down, and sometimes there's new stories and sometimes there's old stories. But, I do the best I can do is try and make their experience fun and positive, and for the most part it is. For the most part it's great. Every once in a while a car's not so good, and every once in a while an idiot tries to lie to me or something, and it doesn't really go well, and it gets kind of awkward. But I think for the most part it's been great, and most people are willing to take an open mind and an honest look at their cars. Or I'm willing to drive anything. I'll drive almost anything. Like, the only rule is I don't want to have done it before. So when it comes to circle back to pushing people away, I'm not pushing people away. I'm pushing cars away.
Yeah,
that's a better way of putting it.
I don't, and some of the commenters get really upset if I say things that are negative about a car, in front of the owner. And they say that, I'm being mean. And I think most of the people who bring the cars know that that's what I'm there for, and I may not like everything. And I'm nice about it. I'm not trying to ruin their day. It is what it is.
Right.
But as far as pushing people away, I'm done with certain cars. There's certain
because
cars.
You covered them. Yeah.
There's nothing. I got nothing else to say about an STI.
Yeah.
I got nothing else to say about FRSs. Sorry, Todd. I got nothing else to say about any Volkswagen. Again, I've said every word I can speak about all the Volkswagens. I got nothing.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So, and there's a list. There's probably a list 20 or 30 cars long, and so
Sure.
the deeper I go down the rabbit hole, the weirder the cars get. Because ultimately I'm just trying to feed my own curiosity as a student. And I have to turn away a lot of probably very nice people who have cars whose only crime is that I've done them before.
Well, but you're talking about the cars that are the greatest hits cars that people like to buy and tune and change anyway, and so of course you're going to just run them into the ground.
Well, and the other thing is,
after 400 cars, you got to do something.
Yeah,
else.
well, a lot of people are like, well, you did this BMW with the JB4 tune, and I've got the Cobb tune, and you see between 4,000 and 4,200 RPM, I'm making 2 extra PSI. And so you kind of have to be like, look, dude, without a Le Mans winning driver and a stopwatch, nobody can tell the difference.
Exactly.
I've driven like 100
STIs.
Not
come across.
Here's what I can tell you about the Subaru STI. It doesn't matter what you do to the car; they all feel exactly the same. It doesn't matter if it has 350 wheel or 600 wheel. It doesn't matter what coilovers you have. It doesn't matter what exhaust you have or what ECU tune. Every STI is the same.
Well, but see, the thing, back to the owners, though, I mean, the thing that's unique about your perspective, and even we have this perspective a little bit, though we haven't driven the breadth of things you have, is that we discover so many owners when they join us for shoots that we're surprised by how few cars many of them have driven. Or, I've had 5 GTIs, but never driven anything else. There's a lot of owners where they just haven't had the ability to do a lot of breadth of cars.
Yeah.
And so I always find it interesting when we have owners join us. First off, I'm amazed that they hang out through a production day, and at the end of the production day go, that was fun. I'm thinking, well, that just seemed like it would be boring if I were on your side, but I'm glad you liked it. So, it's cool to talk to people about the other side of the equation of just, hey, this car. I had a conversation with a guy the other day that drives a Golf R, and he was talking about how much he likes the M2, and a GT350 pulled up, and he was like, wouldn't you rather have an M2 on a track than that GT350? And I said, well, hang on a minute. I mean, he had no idea that the GT350 was even like a good car that did corners, and I was like, come on, help me,
Right.
Yeah. Right. Well, no, I mean, if it surprises you that owners have limited experience, what if you met with manufacturer engineers and employees
That's a great point.
that have very limited experience with other makes? I know some lifers at some car manufacturers, I don't need to drop names right now, but I know some guys who are very high up in very well-known companies who have shockingly little seat time in the, and they corral me at press launches and go, what was this car like, and what was this car like, and what about this, and what about this, and they don't get to drive that stuff. Dude, I went to the Corvette factory in Bowling Green, and there's like 4 people that build all the Z06 engines.
Just 4.
All the LT4s. It's like 4 people. Yeah, it's like 4 people. Like maybe 6.
Yeah.
It's a really small room. Each person builds one engine at a time. Like, you can't believe that for like General Motors, it's literally 4 people. And so I went in there, like the tour was like, part of my Z06 test, right? Which was at the track across the street. So I go there. And the people building these engines, and I'm like, oh, man, you guys must be stoked, right? How's the car? Because, like, I hadn't driven the car yet. And so, how's the car? It's got to be sick, right? And they're like, oh, we don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, we don't get any seat time.
Come
I'm like,
on.
You don't get any seat time? I was like, are you telling me that you build this engine over and over for like 12 hours a day, and there's like 4 of you, and you're building all the Corvettes in the world, and they don't give you seat time? I'm like, what kind of madness is this? Like, there's a racetrack across the street. Like, they don't give you like a couple of hours. Like,
Exactly. We should do this over lunch. Yeah,
I bet that's more prevalent than we think, because I know manufacturers will buy other cars. They buy their competition, tear them down. They drive them first.
Ford does this. Is notorious for doing this. Yeah,
Ford's done it for years. They buy all the competition, and everybody gets to drive it for a while. Inevitably, some idiot will crash it because they're not good drivers in some cases. But then they'll end up tearing them down and seeing how they did this and where the money went and all that kind of stuff. But you'd think it'd be more track time or more experience. But that's
I think some manufacturers do a pretty good job getting their people into competitive make. Ford actually is one of them. I hate to seem like a Ford fanboy, but I just happen to know that they do a lot of competitive make stuff. Yeah. Hyundai does a lot of competitive make stuff as well. And I think that actually they do a pretty good job of it. I remember being on a Hyundai, the Azera, I think it was the Azera launch in Vegas.
Okay.
The Azera it was Azera second gen Genesis, and I went because they had to stick them together because nobody would go if it was just the Azera.
Please
for a car that actually was a pretty nice little car, it is the most forgettable car. I mean, when was the last time you can recall seeing an Azera on the road? And if you drove one, you'd go, this is kind of nice. I don't see what the problem is, but
it's just a forgotten car.
They had a couple of Audi A6s. Come to think of it, at the Ford Taurus launch, they had A6s too. The A6, like the base model A6, must be the benchmark for all of these interiors, because that's what they had at all these, and they would have a couple.
Oh, you know it. Because GM interiors have started to feel like that. You think, oh, that's sort of like the way Audi does it. And the headliner, that's kind of how Audi's doing it now. And
a lot of them are using the same soft foam.
Yeah.
Ford straight up took the soft foam from BMW. Like, Ford literally took the E46 BMW foam and then threw it everywhere in the Mustang.
Which is what BMW was doing.
You can see the exact moment it happened. It happened in like 2010.
We should try to do some car debates. We want to get you in on that. We have hordes of people that write in. We have far more of these that write in than we ever get to. We do 3 or 4 a week. So we want to have, we've given this to you as well. I mean, you can see how these emails come in. It's read the email and decipher where we're headed. I
feel terrible because I have such contempt for the people who write me asking for car advice. Because most of them don't watch the review. Like, they don't watch and most of them don't watch the review. And in a lot of times, I don't know where everyone's from. I mean, you might be far from a dealer, and maybe people are and don't make that clear. But they go, oh, well, I'm thinking about this, this, and this. And I go, well, have you driven any of them? And if so, what do you think? And they just go, no. And I go, you guy, go drive something. Give me something to work with here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing we encourage like crazy. And some people have harder, like you're saying, some people have harder times getting to dealers and getting those test drives done than others. But I agree with you. I mean, you've got to, hopefully you're doing the research and as many videos as you're making, and even the stuff that we've done. I mean, that's a question I've asked people before of, hey, have you seen our comparison that you're talking about? Because what did you take from that? What was the car you thought was interesting? But we've got Brent writing in here, and he actually is looking for, he has a manual FRS. So look at that. I can relate. He had that for a while, and he got rid of it, replaced it with a 07 BMW Z4M which is now starting to be a little bit of a money pit. So now it's the look for something new, and he's trying to stay under 55K. Has to be a manual transmission, even though this is mainly his commute car. So I think that's an interesting twist, that he wants manual and it's a commute car. Okay. So he wants newer than '08. What I think is interesting, he wants something canyon-friendly, driver-centric. He did say when he was shopping, I don't know if you noticed this, Paul, when he was shopping for the BMW Z4 to replace the FRS, he was debating between the Z4 and the Cayman.
I noticed this.
So he gives us a list of things.
You went with the
Z4. Why is he
N.
not immediately going for a 911 at this point? 55 grand
I noticed
buys you
well.
a ton of 911.
No kidding.
That's on his short
list. I feel that that's on his list, but he's got, what else? Focus RS.
Why is a second-hand BRZ on this list if he's already owned an FRS and has 50 grand to spend? I don't follow this dude's logic at all, bro.
I think what's happening there is he's thinking about, okay, I'm going to buy one for cheap and I'm going to throw a bunch of parts at it, which I don't think is the answer here.
No.
I don't think that's the answer at all. And I'm an owner that loves the car, but we talk a lot about there is a tipping point, I feel like, where now you've just spent enough, you should have bought a better car.
Exactly. You should never modify yourself out of class. That's a big mistake. I see a lot of modding out of class in LA. I can't tell you the number of $150,000 M4s I've driven. Right? And you know what's better than a $150,000 M4? Anything that costs 150 grand brand new.
Totally agree with you.
Right.
Totally agree with you. No, we say variations of that all the time. Yeah. So I mean, I don't think, and I say this as an FRS owner that's done some tuning, I don't think that's the answer here at all, but I don't feel like the Focus RS is the answer here either, because this is a commute car that needs to be canyon friendly.
I will say this about the Focus RS. The Focus RS is wonderful if you live somewhere with smooth roads. If you live somewhere with good pavement, you will absolutely love the Focus RS, especially with the $3,500 Mountoon B3 package that I have my car, because it is a monster. I mean, the car is a proper missile, but it is very, very stiff. And if the road stinks, you're gonna really hate yourself, as I do almost every day when I drive mine around.
Yeah, the roads in LA are not that great, to be honest. I mean, we've driven a few, but you've got to seek them out. And then once you're there, it's great. But general commuting, that's not your
My
daily,
Focus is brutal every day. No, my Focus is brutal every day. It really beats me up. So I don't. It's not that I have like buyer's remorse about it, because I do spend a fair bit of time in the canyons. So I really do enjoy the time that I spend in the canyons, and I drove it to Big Bear, and it was great at that. And it's certainly, every time I park it and I walk away, I look back at it every single time.
Do you?
I mean, it passes that test, and I tell you what, I'll tell you, a Golf R does not pass that test ever, and so it does that.
We had somebody else, by the way, who has an RS. And he claimed that the interior bits were rattling, and it felt like too many creaks and rattles and squeaks. Have you had that experience with your car, or is that an anomaly? I'm just curious, because
my car just crossed 5,000 miles.
Okay.
And it has actually. My seat is squeaking.
Really?
And it's squeaking. The seat rail is squeaking. I've got a rattle behind the seat belt, as a matter of fact. Yuck. And there's the leather on the seat, like the portion of the driver's seat that is up against the center armrest. Okay. You get a little leather on leather, and so it goes when you go over bumps, and it drives me off the wall, man. I'm a little bit annoyed with my seat. My seat is squeaking. So,
this is
person who talked about interior. I'm telling you, when the car was showroom new, I sat in and I went, "Yeah, this is 40 grand." Mm-hmm. And now it's got 5,000 miles on it on pretty brutal garbage LA roads.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm getting some rattles and I'm getting some squeaks. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's too bad. I feel like he's brought up the M2 here. I feel like that's a viable option. I agree with where you started though, Matt, because he mentions 911, and I'm sorry, but 997, you've got options at 50.
The M2 is pretty rough too. Have you guys driven the M2 yet? Mm-hmm. Do you drive it on bumpy roads? It's pretty rough, man. On good roads, it's nice.
I mean, we've got some nice roads here, so not too many. I wouldn't say, the expansion joints of the freeway or stuff like that. We haven't experienced that.
I picked one up at Chicago O'Hare and drove it about 200 miles east across Chicago, around the lake to Gingerman Raceway, did some lapping, and then drove back. And on the racetrack, that car was beautiful. I mean, that is a beautiful sports car on the racetrack. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And driving across Chicago, I just was just, oh my God, it was rough. So I've become much more sensitive to ride quality, and that's why our cars like the 911 and the Cayman really come in. I mean, they've got that geometry where that low center of gravity, like they use lightweight, low center of gravity and really good geometries to get that car to corner, whereas M-Car, the RS cars, the AMG car, they start with what a parent company hands them and just makes it faster, so it's always going to be stiffer and it's always going to be less forgiving. And maybe I'm just getting older, man, but I really feel like you got to start with these correct geometries, and then you can have a car that really handles good without sacrificing that kind of ride quality. And if the guy has had a Z4 and an 86, he's obviously okay with a two-seater. He should be buying a Porsche, whether it's a Cayman or a 911. That's next in line for him, for sure.
Agreed. Well, we've gotten into tuning just a tiny bit with Todd's car, but you, of course, driven loads of tuned cars, as you've alluded to. And we're not really into the tuning thing. We're doing a little bit. We're, a toe in the pool at best. But we've always been about just stock cars. Spend your money better. Go get something like a 911 in this case, and get the thing that they've already figured out. Because more than likely, you'll probably screw it up to the, for worse. If you want to turn it into a track car, there's plenty of parts to do that. But just a nice all around. That's the struggle. Todd and I are always thinking. We're talking to people and say, well, okay, it's endless world of tuning out here. I can make my house go fast if I throw enough parts at it. I can be faster than your car, but who cares? It's about the car as designed.
Well, it just kind of goes back to the tuning out of class thing at a certain point.
Tuning out of class. I like that.
I come up with those sometimes. I also came up with the Cayman complex. The Cayman complex is the reason no Cayman will ever be faster than any 911.
Okay,
that's a great one.
Yeah, that's the Cayman complex. It's where any manufacturer neuters the smaller cars so it won't intentionally. Yeah, like the BMW 1M would be another example of the Cayman complex where it wasn't faster than the M3, but with some computer work, it was like 50 extra horsepower.
Yeah.
But I always, I'm not anti-tuning, but like I've kind of found with all these modified cars that like it's really best to get like as close as you can get from the factory and then just like little tweaks as needed. Like you're not going to fundamentally change the characteristic of a car.
Totally agree.
Unless you're talking about swapping an engine, and if you're talking about swapping an engine, like I'm not going to help you. Like you're pretty committed.
Yeah,
at that
you're
point.
dedicated to the platform.
My practical advice.
Totally agree.
Well, I was going to say 1M for this guy for Brent too. That was on my list. A 135i. I even went to a wild card like a C7 Corvette. I mean,
thank you. That was actually my primary choice for him was the C7 because
really?
I think
okay.
That was the one I really wanted to bring up the most because the 911 I think is a great choice for him. I don't understand why the Cayman's not on the list, but when I look at his progression, you've got the FRS, front engine long hood. You've got the Z4M, front engine long hood. If we're moving up from that,
he likes front engine cars.
I go to C7 Corvette. Get that guy. You're well within the budget of that car. I think he'd thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah.
Easy.
Is there cash on the hood right now in Vets? Can you get a brand new Z51 car for under 60 grand?
I wouldn't be surprised. Because have you ever driven a non-Z51 C7? Like you want the Z51 package.
Z51's about the best money you could spend on any one factory option in the world right now.
For $55.
Except for the Starfield ceiling in a Rolls Royce. That's the best.
Which costs the amount of the entire Corvette probably, but yeah.
If you're going to modify your car, everyone, forget everything you're thinking. It's the roof. It's the Starfield roof.
Oh my God, the Star! You make fun. I guarantee you get in a Starfield ceiling, my friend. Let me tell you something.
You recommend highly, then? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully some of that helps Brent in there. We should probably move on to Juan Diego, who wrote in as well, writing in from Connecticut, and he is currently in an Impreza 2-liter sedan with a CVT.
We're all sorry, JD.
That's
We're all
not
really
going to be okay.
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got $30,000 to spend, not $30, $30,000 to spend. What I think is interesting here is he really wants a manual and has no experience with a manual. So he's looking for a car that he can have as his first fun car. He's getting out of the Impreza, so he wants it to be fun. He also wants it to be a manual transmission he can just drive and enjoy and get good at. I love that you want to do that, JD. So that's very cool.
Yeah,
and he has his usual suspects list as well. And guess what? The 86 group is on this list as well. He's got that. He's got the Miata, the Golf GTI, the WRX, so stepping up the WRX platform, and then the Mustang and the Civic are his list. Some of these I like, some of them I don't, but I'm curious what you guys are thinking.
I've seen a lot of S2000s around lately for like 20 grand. It seems like for some reason new-ish or super low-mile Honda S2000s have now flooded the internet for wherever they were hiding.
You know what happens? It's like you get one or two big sales of a couple real cherry ones, right? You get a couple big one on Bring a Trailer goes for like 40.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And then boom, everyone hits the market and they're all done. We saw it a couple years ago at Pebble with Toyota 2000 GTs. Remember the first one hit $1 million bucks, and then it was 2 years later because everyone got their restorations done, and then 2 years later there's like 6 of them, and now they're down to 600.
They came out of the woodwork all of a sudden. You're right. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just trying to think
air-cooled 90s Porsches from Japan right now.
Seriously.
They're all coming over.
Yay! Yeah,
Great. Yeah. That's what we needed to keep the prices of Porsches going. Sheesh. Well, I was trying to think of manual transmissions that we all love rather than a year range for JD, rather than newer, older, whatever. I was just focusing on what's fun to drive with a manual transmission. S2000 stands out for me. Your car, Todd.
Yeah.
I mean, we can all debate the dynamics, fast, slow, that kind of thing, but it seems like just the enjoyment of driving a manual, I'd almost go for a lower power car like he's suggesting here to just extract more out of it.
I've got right now in the garage the new Civic with the turbo and the manual.
Oh, interesting.
It's got a really fun colored paint on it. You can see on my Instagram. It's almost like an Audi Nardo gray, but with a little flake and like a hint of blue. It's actually
That's cool.
It's like off grays are so hot right now.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of your RS with the gold flake.
Yeah. It actually looks really. I got to take a picture. You just reminded me. Parked next to the RS, it's like wow. It's like there's fun colors happening there.
That's cool.
Especially because my girlfriend Hannah has a Volvo wagon that's bright red, and so literally like there's all kind of fun cars happening in the garage right now in color. But the Civic, so it's one of the easiest cars. Like tomorrow I'm teaching Hannah to drive stick on it. Like the new Civic manual is like, this one I have is like 22 grand, but it's got like no options. Like the radio stinks and it's got no leather, and the leather in the Civic Touring is really good. If you can get a Civic Touring with a manual, that's going to be the one to have. But it's like 180 horsepower, and it's it has it's not a lot of frills, but as far as learning to drive stick and practicality and fuel economy and stuff like that, it's quite a bit of a car for 22 grand,
that.
I think.
If you're teaching somebody to drive stick, get a press car, so if the clutch burns up, we don't care. We just sort of hand it back.
Oh, dude,
right?
this Civic has like the heaviest flywheel on the planet. It's like driving stick for dummies. It rev hangs like crazy, but for someone learning, like it annoys me.
That's
like
a good
I
thing
want my manual car to like rev up like a liter bike.
Yeah.
But that's not what a beginner needs.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be perfect for teaching. I mean, that's the thing about the GTI that he's got on here. Look, we like the GTI. We talk about the other cars being more fun, but we like the GTI. It's, the perfect all-arounder. We generally prefer driving the stick version of the DSG. However, other than being a very easy stick shift to drive, I would not put that on my list of great stick shift manual transmissions.
Volkswagen stick shifts are average at best.
I agree.
There's some company, and I want to say it's probably New Speed, but it might be someone else that makes a pretty decent short shift kit for them. But someone who's never driven stick before is not messing with short shift kits. So
True. I mean, I do find it a really easy manual to drive, and I think it'd be a fairly easy one to learn on. I just don't put it in my list of what are the ones that are great. That one doesn't rise to the top. So if we're talking about learning and having an all-arounder, I think the GTI stays. If we're talking
I'd
about
put Fiesta ST on there too.
I agree.
Fiesta ST is easy to drive if you fit in it.
I had that on my list as well. I think that is a fantastic one. If I was going to go all-rounder kind of feeling and still stay fun, I think that Fiesta rises to the top pretty quick.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to anything with a rod linkage instead of cable. You're going to get far more feel out of. And I think S2000, Todd, what is the 86? What is your car? Is that cable? Or is that a rod linkage?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's a rod linkage.
86 is a rod.
Yeah, see, that's the feel.
All the front-wheel drive stuff is cable, but the most rear-wheel drive stuff is rod.
Yeah, generally speaking.
And it's surprisingly good. I mean, the shifting feel on that car is actually surprisingly good. And I don't say that just because I own it. Say it because that's one of the reasons I own it. I like that.
Oh yeah, the 86 has a good shifter. That's nice. Definitely. 86s do. Hondas have great shifters.
Absolutely, no question. They're the top of the list.
The Fords are decent as far as cable shifters go. The Mustang GT has a garbage shifter, and I mean real garbage. That Chinese MT86, MT82 transmission in the Mustang GTs is a proper piece of crap, and that shifter is really junk too. And you don't really notice it until you drive a Shelby with a Tremec, and then you get back in the GT.
That's a great point.
You go, what is this?
That's
and
a great
it's terrible. And so if he ends up with a Mustang, the mandatory first mod is the MGW complete shifter assembly, which makes that crappy Chinese gearbox feel 85% as good as the Tremec does.
Crappy Chinese gearbox. That's a band name, isn't it? I think somewhere that's a band.
I'm
not sure what they play,
right there, at least.
Or it's what they lug their equipment around in.
There you go. Perfect. There it is. It's actually a case size from Pelican. The crappy Chinese gearbox. Right. That's actually one of their case sizes now. They're going to go away from alphanumeric. It's going to be great.
That's right. I was. Todd and I got to talking about transmissions the other day, but they're all automatics. The ZF and Borg Warner automatics that are good. But that's pretty funny. JD, hope this helps you out. Of course, anything, there's loads of stuff on the internet about cars to learn stick on, a friend's car, a $2,000 beater, but obviously where we're going is something that's fun to drive and has good feedback in the shifter. So hopefully that's your takeaway here. I mean, you're going to have to go drive, as we always say, you're going to have to go drive a few of these on your list here. If you've given us this list and you haven't driven it, we say go drive it. So
and I don't want to necessarily encourage anything that would be criminal or otherwise negligent, but
however,
if hypothetically you were to live somewhere where there's Turo, your friend could rent a stick shift car on Turo.
Yes.
And I'm not suggesting anyone abuse any cars in any way, but if you wanted to try driving stick before buying a car, that could be a way to try a couple of them.
That's funny.
And that is the difficulty. I mean, I will also say to JD, you've answered one of the questions I brought up, and that is, does he have a friend or does he have a way to get into a stick shift car? Because I think that's key before he goes and drives the things he's considering buying. It's really hard to go do any kind of, do I want to buy this car if you can't actually drive the transmission at all? So we posted everywhere for questions for Matt and for us, and you guys responded with massive amounts of questions. I actually gleaned 4 out of here in an attempt to wade through the monster list of questions on all our social media places, but I don't know if there were any that stuck out to you guys.
Yeah, I wanted you to talk about your car list here. There's people writing in and asking you about the cars in New York versus the fleet in LA, and you kept the RS, all that kind of stuff. Somebody else says, hey, what's your full car list? Has it changed since we talked to you last?
Well, first off, I'll plug my wheel well page. All my cars are on my wheel well page. All you have to do is go to any search engine and type wheel well Matt Farah, and you will find pictures, parts lists. In every case where my cars have been modified, I actually have links where you can buy. I don't get a cut or anything. It's not like that. But like, if you are interested in what's in my garage and how my cars have been modified, you can go on my wheel well page and you can see it. And my Corvette is even still there, although I sold it. I sold it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You miss it at all?
No.
Really?
I don't. No. I had a good run with that car. It is objectively and subjectively a good car.
Yeah.
But I imagine you guys have driven your share of Corvettes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Few.
Isn't the best Corvette always the newest Corvette?
True, absolutely.
Yeah,
no, I mean we did the 50 years of 911, all those generations. We just did Icon, which is all the generations of the M3.
Right.
People have asked us to do the Corvette, and my feeling was, I don't want to do a bunch of cars where each one's just better than the last.
That is 100% true, sir. The best Corvette is the newest Corvette, and so, it would be one thing if I was like one of your people or one of my people that didn't have the kind of experience with the variety of cars that we do have, but we're not those people. We do have variety of experience, and so, the Corvette. I got that car when I was 18 years old. I mean, imagine that. That thing. That was the greatest thing. But. I had it for 20 years. My tastes have evolved.
Sure.
A red Corvette, with a super loud exhaust and isn't really who I am anymore. And so I had a good run, and it served me well. And if the time and the place were right, and I had a big warehouse, and I could have stuck it in a corner and driven it twice a year, I would keep it forever, and I wouldn't think twice about it. But because at the end of the day, it's something that was costing me hundreds of dollars a month in storage just to keep it.
How
much are you going to spend a month to keep a $15,000 car that you drive 3 times a year? You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of that?
It's turned into a car payment at that point. If you're storing it for hundreds a month. That's ridiculous.
And so
you still have your Vanquish back east, right? Does that have did you ever get a manual swap in that?
Oh yeah, that went back to England, and it's a stick shift now, and it's crazy. And
That's
it's
awesome.
really a beautiful, lovely thing to drive. It's completely, as you can imagine, transformed the dynamic of the car, as well as removed it from not only the aging curve but also the depreciation curve, which is delightful.
That could be one to keep for a long time.
Oh, it is. Oh, it certainly is, because this car is exquisite in terms of how pretty it is. The body work is spectacular. I mean, it's not a full carbon body. The doors aren't carbon, and the rear quarters aren't carbon, but there's a lot of carbon on it for a 2003.
Wow.
It had a piece of crap gearbox in it. Actually, that's a half truth. It had the gearbox itself is a Tremec T56, but it had this like robot, that controlled it, that had literally moved a little shifter lever, and it was. I suppose for the time it was kind of advanced stuff, but that really did date the car, and so by making it a stick shift, you solved that problem, and it is a V12 with a stick that looks like that. I mean, what's better? I would say the only real downsides are the cost, which is extraordinary. At current market prices, a Vanquish is not a particularly valuable car right now. It's about at minimum cool right now. Actually, I would say the DB7 is at minimum cool. The Vanquish has about 3 more years till minimum cool. But it's not worth, your average Vanquish is only worth 65 or 70 grand. And so look, we're still talking about a lot of money, but relative to the brand new purchase price of $284,000, this was an insanely expensive car when it was new. It was more expensive than a Ferrari 550 when it came out, or a 575.
Which you could get with a manual.
You could. The 575 was out when this was out, and so you could get a manual, but it was increasingly rare because the F1 gearbox did get better. Nevertheless, making it a stick, it's stupidly expensive and it takes a year. But
is that But I'm glad that you like it that much. I think it's amazing. Is that the only car you have back east?
Yes. My parents, it stays in my parents' house, and my parents live there. And my parents have some neat cars, too. My mom drives an F-Type, which is dope.
That's awesome.
You liked that when you had the press car. We were over at Matt's place doing a podcast, and he had the press car. And talking about tunnels and V8s and that car.
Yeah, my mom, my 60-something-year-old mother does not have the V8. She has a V6S. She's a V6S.
Hey, that's all good.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Probably about perfect.
Better balance.
No,
right?
that was like
Better
me
balance.
and my dad went to Pebble Beach together. We do like a father-son trip every year, and we went to Pebble Beach
Cool.
for the Concours week in 2014.
Yeah.
And we wanted to buy some. It was something about being in Pebble Beach. You're like, God, I want to buy a car, man. I'm ready. Like, I can't wait.
It kind of does that too.
I almost don't even want to go back to Pebble Beach until I just got like a stack of cash. Like I want to be ready to be,
Yeah.
But we're not.
You've got a transporter waiting for
Yeah.
you, so when you go to the auctions or whatever you do, you just load
Right,
them on the transporter,
and
drive them home.
And there's other. I mean, I learned some stuff. There's guys who go to Pebble Beach, like they're money guys, and if they think you're good for it, they'll front you up to like 7 figures for stuff. Like,
Seriously.
oh yeah,
All
dude, I
cash ready
dude,
to go.
my boys went to these parties that were like there's celebrity, then there's like the Bruce Meyer collector type, and then there's
Right.
one of the judges. They're all sitting at a table, and then there's a money guy who like doesn't really belong, but like if you aren't pre-screened and you decide that week that you want to buy that Ferrari 330 GTS, like he's got your money, and he rolls up there with like 10 or 15 million dollars looking to float people.
Wow. Todd, I wonder if we've run into a couple of those guys, because we got some business cars from a few guys years back, and it just seemed weird. Like, what are you doing here? Just on a pleasure trip? You just like cars? Or I'm looking at, it was some different titles. It wasn't venture capital. It wasn't investment banking.
Yeah.
It was just something different. I wonder if you and I
They
have
could
run
be
into those
loan.
guys and not really
Could
realize
easily
that.
be loan sharks for guys who are bidding at Gooding.
Right.
It's a very good point. That's fascinating.
But anyway, the point
one,
was we bought my mother the F-Type at Pebble Beach. That was that we wanted to leave with something. We didn't want to be selfish, and so the souvenir that we bought was my mother's F-Type.
We brought you something from our trip, Mom, and it's a car. I love it.
Great.
Lucas wrote in on Facebook and asked something that honestly only you can answer, I think, and that is, he said, you've driven all three R32, 33, and 34 Skylines.
I have.
And it's only the 32 that's viable for import right now,
Yeah, for the
right?
next
Or is it 32
no,
and
for the next
33?
couple of years, it's just 32.
So he's asking, is it worth waiting, or is the 32?
Okay.
He's asking for compare and contrast.
Fair question. And actually, before we move on, I feel bad. I plugged my Wheelwell page, but someone listening to this podcast in their car isn't going to go to Wheelwell. The cars in my garage right now are the Lexus with 950,000 miles, my Fox Body Mustang Project, my Focus RS, which has been modified by Mountune, my girlfriend's Volvo V60 Polestar wagon, and my housemate Nick's Porsche Macan S modified by Cobb. That's the current lineup at the moment. So for those
That's
people,
pretty tasty. That's a nice little
it's slimmed down. I sold 3 cars this year, so it's slimmed down. I sold my DeLorean, I sold my Skyline, and I sold the Vet in December. So anyway, to answer the gentleman's question about Skylines, okay, I've driven them all. The 33 doesn't do much for me personally, although if you've driven all of them, the experience of driving all 3 of them is similar. Not identical, but similar. They get more and more power, but it's easier. It's very easy and very safe to take an R32 and put stock R34 levels of power through it. Is very, very easy and very safe. I would say that fundamentally they're very similar in how they drive. And if you want an R34, if the R34 was your poster car, but you don't want to wait, and you get an R32, you'll probably be very happy with it. That is I wanted an R34. But I didn't want to wait 8 years, and the R32s were legal, and I bought one, and I was very happy with it. And I thought that I had driven the 34 beforehand, and I had never driven a 32 before I bought it. The one I bought was the first one I'd ever driven, and after I test drove it, I said, close enough, because I'd had the 34. And I found it to be close enough. They are lovely, lovely cars. I mean, because I've got a 1988 Mustang, a Fox body, So my car, it's an 88, but my Skyline was a 90. Let's say contemporaries, right? We can call them contemporaries because the Fox body was the same as mine in 1990. It would be representative of the model. The Skyline makes a Fox body Mustang look like such an unbelievable pile of crap. I mean, the Skyline really, Skyline feels like a spaceship. I mean, it really, you drive that car and you think about it being from 1990 and you go, oh my God, the engine feels like a BMW 335 engine. It's a new one. It's a day one.
That's amazing,
powerful,
because we were talking about STIs and talking about anything you screw to an STI and they're all the same. Is that what you mean by driving experience and just the cars are just that good and so it kind of doesn't matter which one you buy? Is that what you're alluding to?
No. I mean, look, the R34 is the best one. You get the most power, you get the best interior, and you get a 6-speed gearbox. Those are important. The 6-speed is important.
Yeah.
The 33 I drove had a 6-speed in it too, but I can't remember if it had been swapped in. And you may be able to get a 6-speed in the 33 as well, but the 6-speed does help. It makes it accelerate quicker, and it makes it rev a little lower on the highway. I will say that the 34 is the best. I had my 32. I sold it at a delightful profit.
To our friend Justin.
You guys know Justin. Yeah. He made me an offer I couldn't say no to, and I hear he's happy with it actually, and God bless. But otherwise, I absolutely would have kept it because that one was cherry. That was a really good car. But when the 34 is legal, I am going to buy another one. I'm going to buy a 34. I haven't aired the video yet, but I just drove a stock R34. Stock powertrain, coilovers, and modern wheels and tires. And it was, it was spectacular. I drove like a 1,000 horsepower Skyline. You don't want to avoid that trap. It's really easy to build yourself a $200,000 Skyline. It's really, you start getting these Rips racing engines from New Zealand and, the stroker cranks and all this crazy stuff. And you can go down a rabbit hole that is literally never ending. But I think, the stock Skylines are beautiful cars to drive. I mean, shockingly fast and competent and modern. Especially the 32s when you consider how old they are. If you're cool with the right-hand drive, like I think right-hand drive is a fun game. I enjoy right-hand drive, so it doesn't bother me at all. It is a fun game. Yeah. It makes an otherwise mundane drive interesting. It makes you have to think. You have to drive. I can go into autopilot in a P1, bro. Driving on the other side of the car, you got to think a little bit, and that's a fun game.
The Caterham 620R. So not only was it sequential,
nutty little
right-hand drive, tiny car that it is, lightweight, all this stuff thrown together all at once, and it kind of rattled, and it was screwed together well.
It kind of rattled.
It was.
They're death traps, huh?
It was a constant rattle. It was amazing, but it was a constant rattle.
You're not kidding.
Yeah. I drove a right-hand drive Caterham 420R in the UK, and I hated it. And then I drove a left-hand drive Caterham 360R here in America, and I enjoyed it much, much more.
What do you think was the difference? I mean, besides power, but less power.
I don't know. I think it wasn't the power that bothered me of the 420. Something about a car that small with right-hand drive, and I don't know. Maybe I had an off day, but it just, and there's something about the pedal box as well that was different.
It's incredibly hard.
Yeah. We almost had to take our shoes off.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't aired the video yet. We'll talk about it again. I got to rewatch the video because at a certain point in the video, we figured out what it was that was different that made it better. Okay. So, cool. But I can't remember it offhand. To answer the man's Skylines, he'll be happy with an R32 if he wants one now. And if he wants to wait for one and build up some suspense, it will
He'll be fighting you for an R34, yeah.
Well, the juice will be worth the squeeze. You know what I mean? The juice will be worth the squeeze.
Funny.
That's fair.
Funny.
Well, let's do another question or two, and then we'll wrap this up because we're already at an hour. So
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. Matt, anything on the list stick out to you that you wanted to touch on?
No, you guys fire away. You're the programming director here. I'm the guest. This is your gig.
all right. Well, I've got one from Twitter. Skunkworks on Twitter wrote in and said, "What's one major automotive trend we'd like to see more of, and what's one we can't see die fast enough?"
One we'd like to see more of, and one we can't see die fast enough.
I'm not sure why everything has to have a front quarter panel the exact same shape intake behind the front
I was going to say,
wheel.
that's a good one. A styling cliche.
And even if
that's
even if it's
overused.
not an intake, it just you have to have something there that has a corner.
Yeah.
Just stop.
I was gonna say shredder styling. Shredder styling is not. I mean, is this Civic hatch Sport I have right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like even more shreddery than like a Lexus RCF, and it has like a third of the power of a Lexus RCF. Like you need, you know what I mean? Like you need a motor to pull off shredder styling. You know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's not good, but the people should be able to say, well, at least it's fast. You know?
Yeah, you're right. Fair.
One
Well,
trend
talking
we
about
should
things
see
that-
more of.
Talking about things that should die are stanced cars.
Oh,
In my opinion,
that's-
that can't die fast enough.
That's low hanging fruit. Come on, you could do
Oh,
better than that. You're a
I'm
professional,
grabbing at it.
Paul. You don't need you don't need to pick on stanced cars.
Any other questions that strike you, Paul?
Gosh, so many. We've actually covered quite a few. Civic hatch, we've covered.
We have. We've covered a lot
What
of them,
else?
yeah.
Jaguar. I'm trying to think what else. Man, so much.
Well, then, look, we're not going to cover the vast majority, but thank you guys for all the questions you've sent in. A huge thanks to Matt for being on the podcast. I actually have to say, somebody wrote in, I honestly don't know if it's a joke. They asked, where do I find Matt's podcast? And if you're listening to us, you may have found us because we were on his. But I do want to give you a
Right.
second, Matt, to just give out all of the here's where you find me stuff. And I also want to rope into that question. Are you guys doing more Drive on NBCSN?
I am not sure I am at liberty to say yes or no
Okay.
about NBC, but
Okay.
let's just say it is on the table. It's on the
That was
table.
delicate.
No, it's on the table. We're not sure yet, but
Good. Okay, great.
But it's possible, and I'm fingers crossed because I do enjoy making that show. So NBC, I don't know if it's happening just yet, but it's possible, and I hope so. And so you can find the podcast on iTunes if you're an iTunes user. And if not, shoutengine.com/thesmokingtire. We also post every episode on our Facebook and our Twitter. And you can use whatever podcast platform you like to find us. Also, our videos on our YouTube channel. Everything is The Thing/The Smoking Tire, right? So YouTube, Facebook,
That
Twitter,
makes it simple.
Instagram, Shout Engine/The Smoking Tire. That's where you find everything. And
Yep.
new one takes every Monday through Thursday, 52 weeks a year at 7 a.m. Eastern.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
that's really all I got right now, I think.
And we thought we were busy. That's insane.
A lot of
man.
videos.
That's,
A lot of videos.
That's crazy.
Do you want me to tease what one takes are coming up the next week? Do we want to do that?
Absolutely.
World
Sure,
exclusive. Okay, so we've got
Frying.
Porsche 991.2 GT3 RS Factory Martini livery.
Ooh, that's a gorgeous
Very
one.
cool.
Very cool.
We've
That
got
sounds
a Honda Civic SI making 340 horsepower all motor.
Whoa.
We've got a modified BMW 435. We have got a couple of cars that were medium boxes. We've got an RSX that was a box
Okay.
and a V6 Mustang that was a box. And then we've got that covers the next week.
Okay, very cool.
Very
Well,
nice.
thanks for the tease on that.
You've got some things. You've got a tease of some things.
And Matt, I have to thank you again. Really, we've been on your podcast a few times. It's more than overdue for us to return the favor, and thank you for being on with us.
Who's doing who a favor? No, I'm just kidding.
Fair. Okay, all right. Hey, we're up there with your podcast as well.
There are no favors. There are friends doing each other's shows because that's what friends do.
I agree
Appreciate
with
it.
that. Totally.
Appreciate it.
Totally.
Well, guys,
Thanks for having me, guys.
we appreciate it. And everybody, thanks for listening. Thank you for your questions. There were so many. We couldn't get through them all, obviously. But, loads of stuff here. We've got films, Icon film with the 1M and the M2 in it, so don't forget that. I've got loads, stacks of them, and we're ready to ship those out to you. So don't forget that. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Cheers, everyone.